right? And thank you for coming to our Goal for Connected Networks call. I'm Cecilia Wessinger, your host, and the person who will help support you as best as I can. And in Connected Networks, my question for you today, as you introduce yourself, is to let us know how you got connected to the ESHIP community. Because some people have been to ESHIP, some people haven't been to ESHIP. I will tell you that I was invited to the first ESHIP summit. I don't know how I got on the list. I have a pretty good suspicion that it was because I was lead organizer at 1 Million Cups in Tulsa, and built my relationship with Jordan, who was in charge of 1 Million Cups at the time, and so we bonded because we had a bit of a crisis, and she came down to visit and give us some love. So that was part of my introduction to this community, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. So my question as we go forward is, how did, because I can't tell. Thank you for Avery wrote, if we could possibly rename our phones to know who you are, that would be most helpful. But I'm going to have you call on the next person, and we'll popcorn if you can tell us who you are and how you got connected to the ESHIP community. And let's start with Mel.
Okay, hi, I am Mel Lambert. I work at St. Louis County Library, and I got connected with ESHIP because I was doing some research on co-working spaces in libraries, and I called Dara Mann, who is out of Arizona, and she said, oh, you know, this is great. I'm really glad you're doing this research. Have you ever thought about going to ESHIP? And so I said, no, what's that? And she filled me in, and I got it cleared with my job to come, and it was awesome.
Okay, call on somebody.
Okay, 815, whoever the 815 is.
This is Carol Abrahamson. I'm the founder of the Illinois State Incubator Association. We're a new group, just kind of in our launching mode. And when I first, in 2017, learned that Illinois did not have a state association, I started networking with the presidents of the 20 state associations that existed at the time. And it had to have been one of them last spring. I can't remember which one, because I'm back and forth with a bunch of them constantly. But I think in April told me about last spring's conference. So I jumped on the waiting list. It was too late for me to get in. Jumped on the waiting list and then kept my fingers crossed for about 5 weeks, hoping I'd get called to come, but I didn't. So that's how I found out about it. And I've been I think this is the fourth time that I've joined this group's call, and I'm also part of the Goal 7 group. So I'm going to call on Tyler.
Thank you, Carol, my Goal 7 friend. I appreciate it. Hi, everybody. Tyler LeCompte, the road trip, Daytona Beach, Florida. How did I get involved in ESHIP? I, too, have a friend named Jordan Marcello. Jordan was kind enough to invite me to an organizer summit. This was spring 2016, 17, and it happened to be about, I think, a week or so either after or right around ESHIP planning, and there was all kinds of stuff on the walls that said ESHIP and da-da-da-da-da, and being the nosy guy that I was, I went, what's that? And I want in. So here we are. Yeah, get what you asked for, right? This is awesome. I'm really excited to work on Goal 4 is my favorite too as well. So with that, I will talk to, well, I got a call on the mustache. Come on, Eric. Eric. All right,
Making sure I wasn't on mute. Sorry about that.
There
Yeah,
you
I'm sorry not to be on video today, but thanks so much. I guess we'll all have these long, strange journeys or whatever. It was startup weekend and Up Global, and then meeting I think Andy Stoll through one of the summits that took place out in Iowa, and he was the one who invited me to the ESHIP summit. And this is actually one of the goals that I have really hadn't spent a lot of time like looking at until recently. So I get the sense that it's kind of helpful to have a sense of where each of these different goals is at. So I figured I'd poke my head in here and see how things were going. Looks like things are moving along. Let's see. How about I have never met Peter.
Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm Peter Cordell, based in Ithaca, New York, with entrepreneurship at Cornell, but also Startup Tree. And so, I got connected through Adam out in Colorado, and a couple of our directors that we work with had mentioned this to us. And so we thought, check this out and see if there are ways we can kind of contribute to the greater community. As we work with more and more schools all over the U.S. and elsewhere in the world. So just happy to kind of listen in and see if there are ways that, I or some of our team members can add value. So thanks for having us. And then the next person that I see below, at least on my list, Carol.
Carol's gone.
Okay.
Carol's 815. I already did it. I already talked.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. My apologies. There's another Eric I see.
No, Eric's on the phone and on video. So just to throw you off, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So you got
Hassan.
Okay.
All right. So third time's a charm. Mel. Hopefully Mel has not gone yet.
No.
Did you call on me or?
That was me.
Yeah, why don't we, I think Mel's already gone, so I'm going to call on Hassan.
Okay, great.
Hi, Hassan Bazi. I'm in Detroit, and how I got connected with through Forward Cities. So I'm a friend. I was part of the Detroit Innovation Council for Forward Cities and ecosystem building work that they were doing in an initial phase of Forward Cities. So that's how I got invited to the first ESHIP. And let's see, who has not gone yet? I think that's it. Oh, Jeff is on. So Jeff.
I don't know what I'm supposed to say. I am Jeff. Many of you know me. What else do you want to know?
How you got connected to the community?
I went to ESHIP in July last year. ESHIP Summit.
How did you get invited, or who do you think invited you?
Oh, I know Laura Good, and she's my co-founder, and she couldn't go. And actually, she invited me in 2017. I couldn't make it then, and I got an email invite for 2018 as well.
Excellent. So we have Avery left, and then who is 301?
Hey, Cecilia, it's David.
Oh, David. Hey, okay. I can rename you. So I'm going to have Avery go, and then we'll get David to go.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Avery Kent, based in San Francisco, currently in Seattle at the Liberating Structures Conference. I had heard a lot about ESHIP, and given all the ecosystem building we do, I was pretty sure I should be there. And Randall Kempner from Andy helped me to actually get the intro to Andy Stoll to get an invite.
All right, David, you're up.
All right. So I'm David Hirsch. I work with Co-Starters, and but I really got invited in by Cecilia because she and I are working on things pretty much exactly like this connected network stuff. So so all of us Co-Starters kind of work on it, but now I'm fully engaged because of our mischievousness in trying to connect people. So
You weren't supposed to tell all those trade secrets, but that's okay. Now that we're at it, thank you very much.
Yep.
So I'm going to go ahead and share something that all of you have probably seen, which is the goal definition. Let me make sure I have so much stuff open. So this is the current draft of the connected networks, which I emailed to all of you, and the current definition. And out of these, there are 4-ish initiatives, but you can see there's only one with a brief written. The ESHIP champions and I are working, some of them who are on the call, we're going to work out, and before the end of the week, I will get you a simplified version of a brief, which is going to be a lot easier to fill out, because we're just going to take more high-level information and put the problem, solution, unique value proposition, that kind of stuff in there. So the playbook of existing tools is out there. We talked about a wiki of resources, and that's kind of nested in the middle of that. There's talk about a central communication channel, and by central communication channel, we're probably talking about where we collect and connect everyone. So maybe part of that would have to do with a shared calendar of events. Part of that would work with the storytelling initiative that Jeff and Avery and Tyler and I, and I'm sure other people are working on, to create a repository of storytelling and stories around ecosystem building, but also a place for data and connected case studies and things like that. So a communication channel is a big, wide thing, and I don't know if we solve for pieces of that and link them together. So that's a question for all of you. Is it something that makes sense for us to link them together once we've got each component, or do we try to, I don't know if it's overwhelming to solve for all of it, right? National Resource Providers Network, some of that work is going to be done by Christine, my colleague, who focuses on national resource providers. Part of that becomes the marketplace, which Co-Starters is helping us create, which is the tools and the programs and other things that are resources for everyone, and then creating peer networks. So with that, I feel like there is, Avery was nice enough to create the notes for the call because she's always on it, so I appreciate that, Avery. So my first question for you is, these are the top initiatives as recognized by the community and the ESHIP champions, and kind of aligned. Is there anything that we need to think about, keep top of mind? What do we do? And that's kind of a very broad question, but we're getting ready to publish the playbook or fine-tune the playbook that has to go in through edits. And so, yes, it would be most helpful to say, is there something that is drastically missing? Is something numbered where it shouldn't be? Give me some feedback, and I'm going to ask Avery to begin with, because she's usually the one looking at it from a step back and giving some input. So I'm calling you out, Avery.
Multitasking, hard. Taking notes. So I don't think I've spent enough time looking at the most recent version of the playbook to give you a good feedback there. But from the screen share you were showing of the most recent initiatives piece, I guess one question I do have is how or where the storytelling component fits. Is that sub to 4? Is that across all the goals? How are we talking about that so it's not perceived as goal number 8? And that's, tends to be fairly top of mind for me. And then the other one was the brief on the podcast, and whether or not that's just sitting under the storytelling piece or if that's still sitting within connected networks. And then I thought from the ESHIP Champions retreat that there was also a few other initiatives, and maybe they just got filed away under different goals, which is totally understandable, around things like the dictionary and other kind of other pieces that we wanted to accomplish or incorporate into the upcoming ESHIP Summit in May.
So some of those things that I can answer, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jeff to talk about the storytelling thing, is because I see you off of mute, so I knew you had an answer for this.
Well, no, I have a question first to clarify.
Oh,
by
no,
playbook, is this what you mean by the playbook
Yes.
that you're working on? Okay.
Yes. So the playbook that we're working on is published online as well as printed and sent out. And the playbook was sent out to attendees of the ESHIP Summit. Just as an aside, because everybody's going to ask, is the ESHIP Summit is scheduled for May 21st to the 23rd. It overlaps with the Mayor's Summit, which will be the 20th to the 22nd. All of the language and things move slowly here. All of the language and everything has to be approved by several different checks and balances and layers of people. So the invite for that should be happening for anybody who's been to the ESHIP Summit at the end of this week. At the end of this week, when we get the invitations out to those of you who have attended, you'll have the first opportunity to sign up. And then the general, for this, for it to be a wider general sign up will happen later on in the month. So anybody who's attended before will have about a week or so, and then everybody else who's not attended before should get the invite. You should be, if you're signed up on a newsletter, you should already be on the page. If by the beginning, like the first day in April, you have not gotten an invitation, please feel free to email me. You can email me at eshipgoals@gmail. That will go to myself and my colleague Christine, so that would be great. As far as the Mayor's Summit goes, the invites to the mayors who have attended before will go out at the end of the week alongside with the ESHIP invites for previous attendees, and then it will be opened up. When you register for the ESHIP Summit, you should get a follow-up email, an email or so later, that will give you a link of how to address it with your mayor and call them and invite them. So the goal would be ESHIP ecosystem builders, excuse me. So ecosystem builders and mayors from the same community would attend those events. That would be a big win, I think, for ecosystem building on top of everything else. So, so hopefully that answers the question. Going back to the initiatives that are not on this page, it doesn't mean they're not important. It doesn't mean that we've put them in a drawer somewhere. These are the ones that had the most energy and been raised up by the community, by the ESHIP champions, by the foundation as, let's start here because we have to start somewhere. Some of them live in other parts of the goals, and no, storytelling is not goal number 7. I mean, it's not an 8th goal. So Jeff, if you want to update people on what you and Tyler and Avery are working on, and because that's a connected network.
Sure. So I think most people here probably know, or probably a few, maybe not. So the Storytelling Initiative is a brief that I wrote, my God, it's probably back in August now, maybe September. And that's, I think, linked to somewhere on, has anybody here got access to like that dashboard, Cecilia?
It's on goal 7. I'll send the dashboard.
Okay, so there's a very verbose document that hasn't been updated in a while. A while back, a few weeks ago, Tyler and Avery and I met online to talk about a way to simplify what that intent of the storytelling initiative is. And so we talked about creating a landing page for that. So I did that, and then actually went further and turned that into a website. It's called ecosystembuilderhub.com. So if everybody wants to, here, let me just plop this into the chat. And I gotta make sure everybody see this and not just Tyler. Click there. So if you go to that, so the home page is essentially a one-page, really high-level synopsis of what the storytelling initiative is intended to be, as was written in that big long document, but this is way simpler. I couldn't contain myself, and I also have been collecting stories, links to external articles about ecosystem since July. I put those on there as well. You can see a link in the top menu. I went further and did a couple of podcast episodes last week and put that on there as well. So I think podcasting can sit under the storytelling initiative rather than be a separate one. I think we may end up having multiple podcasts. I know Yuval is actively working on hers again. I've done mine. Tyler's going to have some stuff going on. So I think we can kind of roll it in, and this can truly be a clearinghouse collection of stories that people in the community are doing about ecosystem building. Does that kind of sum it up, you think, guys? What did I miss, Tyler?
What did he miss, Tyler?
I don't think he missed anything, Jeff. Actually, it was exactly how he said. Yeah, we got a great site. Jeff's killed it. It looks awesome. Has his first podcast up, which was
first two actually. Sorry, I apologize. Yeah, first two.
We got our buddy, my buddy Ryan from Ocala, Florida, is on there, and that was a great start. So and yeah, I agree with Jeff. I think this not goal 8 is very quickly turning into its own big project. And at this point, we talked last night about starting to reach out and to the contributors list, see who's wanting to get active, and start kind of putting out some minor guidelines as well as some offer for help. Jeff's got a nice first 2 on the podcast, so we're going to kind of run with that 30-minute long interview theme, where you can hopefully get through 6-10 questions with the person and go from there. So anybody interested in being featured, who's not like, oh, I would never, feel free to let us know. Anybody who's interested in trying to contribute, let us know, and we'll see how we can do it. We'll go from there.
And I'll elaborate a little more in the spirit of the cause don't do thing. I've done the do part, and now I want to do the cause part, which is down at the bottom of that homepage. You can see links for people to submit links to stories that are published out there that they'd like to submit to an online hub clearinghouse of stories. And so that's just a Google form to collect input from people. So if we can start spreading the word and start crowdsourcing stories from the community. And then the second link is if they've got an idea for an article that hasn't been published and you'd like to write it, or you'd like somebody to talk about it, write it, there's a separate Google form for that. So we can start collecting crowdsourced ideas of existing content plus new ideas to talk to write about.
And I think when we talked about this this initiative initially, one of the things that we wanted to make sure of was to focus it on ecosystem building,
yes,
as opposed to entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. I think that there's a myriad of resources for entrepreneurs,
right,
but there is less so for ecosystem building. So
yeah, the mantra is for ecosystem builders by ecosystem builders.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on the storytelling connected and what's already happening, which is very exciting for this? No questions? Wow.
Crickets.
All right.
I have
there he is.
one. Wait, I got one. Sorry, I was moving outside because it's nice out here finally. Is there anything in particular that you all are looking for, or like things that you'd like? Because we're connected to a bunch of ecosystem builders that may have stuff, but I don't want to,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to cause too much do for you two.
So you're talking from the co-starters perspective?
Yeah, or just or when we're at SCN next week or whatever.
So
there's a couple places.
Cecilia and I both talked to, and I'm forgetting her name now at Co-Starters. Cecilia, what?
Tiana.
About if Co-Starters is interested in producing a lot of content. So basically, we can be this storytelling thing, whether it's Ecosystem Builder Hub or call it something different. I don't care.
Or not. That's it. That's what we're calling it.
But it can be a clearinghouse. It can be a mass collector. It can be, it's meant to be. You can do your own thing. Somebody else can do their own thing, and it's a collection, a one-stop shop, if you will, to find anything that anybody in the world is writing about ecosystem building, and it's collecting all that. Does that make sense?
I'm running out of power.
Yes, that makes sense. So, I mean, in some ways, it's just repository. So, if we hear cool stuff, then I'll point them.
Yeah, you can either submit it through one of those links on the website, or just shoot an email. Either way.
Okay, that's good.
And
I'll view it like a medium, and some, of like just but a focused one.
And it's
be specific.
I don't think I've got it on this site anywhere, but.
Let's talk at SCN.
Editorial guidelines and things like that can go into what gets approved, if you will, to go on the site. If it, like Cecilia said, if it's something about entrepreneurship, then no, this is going to be about ecosystem building.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. Yeah, we'll chat at SCN.
Yeah, definitely.
That's cool. Okay. Thank y'all.
Okay.
Anybody else?
No other questions?
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just catching up on the Slack, and did I miss something that storytelling's now goal 7?
Andy put it into that. I learned last week that he.
I'm really confused.
But I asked Cecilia today about the call, and it's not. So yeah, I understand that confusion. I'm a little confused too.
Tyler, did you call it goal 8? Goal 9?
It's not goal 8.
Hashtag not goal 8.
I thought I heard somebody say that.
Oh God, no! Hashtag not goal 8.
Yes.
So
not goal 8.
Cecilia, maybe
my
you can.
2 cents would be it's goal 4, but that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, well, it's Andy.
I should bring Andy in here and say, hey, they have a question to ask you. No.
And the folks doing the work want it to be goal 4.
Whether we move it into goal 4 or goal 7 doesn't really matter to me. As long as it lives, I think is the most important part. And it obviously does, because it already has a life. But we can definitely, let me ask you, especially because some of you are on goal 7 and goal 4, just as a consensus of the people here, does it make sense that storytelling initiative lives in goal 4?
I think it fits well, like the initiative said, it fits in a lot of things, and that's the problem.
It's the one, not a goal, to rule them all. Okay.
But at the end of the day, stories are what help us stay connected to each other.
Yeah, I've always felt that
shared experience, a shared identity, that there is such a thing as an ecosystem builder, like that comes down to story. And the fact that goal 7 is really about the financial or sustainability of the work. Yes, stories are an important tool for that, but the goal is about something far different. Whereas, yeah, my 2 cents.
I agree. I've always felt that it belongs, fits best in goal 4, but I'm tired of arguing semantics and just going to go do it.
Well, and Cecilia, to your question, do you all, now that we're digging into some more of the work, I think we're going to have work that overlaps all the time, and we just need to pick some place. And as we get into details, projects should overlap things, or maybe, there's not going to be a lot of them that are only one thing, and actually they probably shouldn't be. So it is semantics, but it fits here, so that's fine. Let's keep it.
It's semantics that has an impact on scheduling.
Absolutely. I know. Well, I'm not in that part. I'm not in that department. I just say words and then let other people.
Okay, so I've got Eric says goal 4. Mel says goal 4. Carol, you're in 7 and 4. Is it more sustainable or is it more connected?
I think it's much more fitting in 4. As my concept of 7 is about structure and infrastructure for this. So I would vote for 4.
And just get
Hassan?
overruled.
For one, it's not a choice.
No, one is not a choice. It's not.
And I couldn't find my unmute button, so my screen disappeared. I was trying to unmute myself. I think it fits in, like it. We've said this over and over for months, that it kind of fits into everything. But I think if you're going to place it in one place, it seems that it would fit in under goal 4.
Yeah.
All right, Peter, you going along with the crowd? What do you think?
Yes, I am. Yes, from everything I've seen from my end, just like the impact that it can make in terms of it slotting into 4 probably makes the most sense. And yeah, echo what others have said just right before. So.
Excellent. So while there are threads of it that are infused in other goals, like case studies, lives and quantified methods, but at the same time, it is a way to tell our story. So that's why we want cases to be part of storytelling. That all makes sense. A PSA is also the way we tell our story as ecosystem builders to the greater audience. So that again is a way to tell a story. So I will advocate that we move storytelling into goal 4. So there's
Andy to change it.
Back into 4. Back into 4.
All right. So if we solve for nothing, we will at least have storytelling living in the right place. How's that? Okay. Now let me ask you, as far as some of the other things are, we talk about, as I said, the National Resource Provider Network / part of Marketplace, that's being worked on. Create Peer Network is one that's pitched out there, but there's no brief behind it. I'm curious to hear from you. What does creating a peer network look like? Is it SCN? Is it IMBIA? Is it all of those things? How does that work?
So, I think this is maybe where, from thinking back to the Champions Retreat, we may be talking about 2 of the same things. So the language shift to peer network came from Rob being sensitive to the fact that many of these groups are already peer networks of their own. And so the idea of a trade association for ecosystem builders was likely to hit some pretty significant political roadblocks. And so I think the National Resource Providers Network and the Peer Network are actually the exact same thing. They're not 2 separate things, but somehow they got listed as 2 separate initiatives. And so just want to flag that I think the intention there was the concept of the meta network, where all of these orgs like SCN, like NBIA, like Community.org, like SourceLink, all these folks who are already works in and of themselves can be connected to peers to be able to advance the impact and validity of ecosystem building. Is that an accurate reflection of what you all remember from the conversation?
Yeah, and I see that maybe some of you guys are in there too. Somewhere from the notes from December's convening, we've got a note about that one, about Jackie, Avery, Enoch, Christine, Rob meet and talk about convergence.
And that call hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So that was the call that we were trying to push for.
So maybe with the simpler initiative brief, something can be written up about to that effect. Not that I'm volunteering to do it.
So let me ask you, so the other part that comes from this is, if we were to infuse all this together, the other part that that bubbles up is a standards board. We keep hearing things around a representative model, a UN type organization where there's representation from all of these peer networks, so that when we are, it's better alignment and collaboration in scheduling, in sharing resources, and being like playing nicely in the sandbox. So maybe what it is also building what that representative model is, so that when we can approach things like a DEI initiative, that there's actually a level or a standard for what good practices look like. And Avery, I feel like you have something that you want to add.
Well, I think that was a big part of the sequencing work that Jeff and Enoch and Jackie and I worked on, which was that the standards are an emergent outcome from building the trust and from building the underlying community, and that there are some easier standards that can be done, like the dictionary concept, and like the shared calendar. There were like kind of more tool applications that could be done to just get people used to collaborating and used to co-creating things together and seeing that they all benefit from that co-creation. Before we're ready and have the trust and relationships needed, I think, to invest in the standards body formation, which will require a significant investment of time, capital, convenings. Like that is a heavy lift, as somebody who's been through the ringer on a few different standards creation processes.
Avery, question for you on that, and I'm new to this part of the discussion, but would it be possible to extend those standards, like that, if we're going to include their network that already exists, like say SCN or whatever, that they would have to follow a certain set of guidelines that would include being, part of that collaborative structure, there'd be a set of inclusivity they follow, a set of, how they do stuff, and a set of how they connect to the other networks. And then our standards could be a little bit more limited and focused on just that, like playing in the sandbox together well, like Cecilia was saying. If we focus there, then they can go deeper into the engagement and a lot of the other building out. Would it make it less a lift, or are you still saying that would be?
I mean, I think you're right on the sequencing part. I think what came out of the initiatives and the conversations was actually a desire for a significantly deeper set of standards across all of these agencies that will require that. I think the only place that the ESHIP community has leverage is what you're describing, which is in terms of like the standards of how we play well together. But that the desired outcome eventually is a much larger standards body. Especially around like the metrics, how you measure success, how you report, how you go after funding, right? Like this is where it starts to tie into all the other goals.
How we get letters after our names. Just saying.
I've been avoiding those my whole life.
I want all the letters. I just want the alphabet. I want the alphabet.
That's my girl.
So how, one of the things that we talk about when we come together as a group, we want to do the things that we can't do like this, right? So it's great to have these calls. It's great to sync up. It's great to collaborate and work on things, but there are only certain things that can be done or should be done when we come together as a group. So some of the things that we're tossing out there are things that actually live in goal 3. I'm looking at a big board of goals and in front of me. So this is now the other room. So I will show you, that's the big board of goals and the top initiatives that have come from there. So we talk about things like creating shared vision or a mission, things like the dictionary or the terminology. That's something that's best done when a bunch of people are together. And then you can say, well, because the question is always posed, well, who thought about this? And you go, yes, well, we actually had a convening of 450 ecosystem builders, and this is what we came with. So maybe that's that MOU or how we collaborate is something that we could address in a smaller goal.
Well, and I think this was the initiative activity sequencing sheet, which I just shared in the chat. That there was, we took a lot of pains to think about what are the things that need to happen before ESHIP, what are the things that need to happen at ESHIP, to exactly that point, Cecilia, that like, if we're going to have the buy-in, we need to be able to point to, here's how this was created, here's who was involved, and here's why this represents the larger movement in the larger field, and not just like the vested interests of one or two individual organizations.
Right. So yes, and some of the things have shifted because of the things that have happened between December and now.
Cool.
So while some of it, because some of it's already happening, like storytelling is happening, right? So Jeff didn't wait for permission. Jeff just kind of did the thing, which is wonderful. It's what needs to be done. So so some of that sequencing has shifted only because there has been some movement, and then things have bubbled up, and so there's some of those things.
And is there a way for us to have visibility into what those shifts are?
Yes. So as much as I can, I'm happy to share where that's kind of gone. So Christina and I are under not a deadline, but there's in order to get ESHIP Summit ready for all of you to sign on to, we've got some stuff that we've got to do. So it's not that this isn't a priority, because it's all a priority, but there are things that have to be sequenced in this part so that we can make sure that we actually have a summit for you to attend. So as soon as I can, and please remind me of it, just remind me to go back and work on some of this document. That would be great. So is that fair? That just remind me. The other thing, so it sounds like from what all of you are saying, instead of the peer network, or not in place of, but collaboratively between the peer network and the National Resource Network, that it all seems to be a larger network. Is that what I'm hearing from everyone?
I think Avery's point, it's sort of like a network of networks. I think that component's pretty important, because there are definitely some sub-networks that folks already own to some extent.
Okay. So it's like one of Andy's favorite books is Team of Teams. And I think somewhere in our discussions, he's actually said that's what he's visualizing as a team of teams of ecosystem building. And it sounds like that's what we're leaning towards. What would help that along?
Having the call that we had articulated having with Jackie and Rob and myself and Christine and possibly Lauren.
Okay. How can we help facilitate that in happening? Does it need to happen before ESHIP? Can it happen at ESHIP, right? Can it be part of...
the intention was to be able to have the call before ESHIP so that we would be able to know what, if anything, needed to happen at ESHIP. And I want to be really clear. Like, I'm not trying to be critical. It's not where this is coming from. I'm trying to name like that. I think we're hitting a tension point where we're being asked to co-create, or we're being asked to co-design, and we're asked to just do and not ask for permission. But at the end of the day, we still have to ask for permission. And so there's a tension there that is feeling very palpable right now. I know I have personally emailed asking you and Christine about this call 3, maybe 4 times December, and just kept being told like that it was happening eventually. And so there's like I don't actually feel like I have permission. I don't actually feel like I have agency to move something like that forward when it does involve the foundation and their resources and what they see important or valuable. And so like, I'm happy to give my perspective and my 2 cents, and I'm happy to give my time. And what I fear losing is I fear losing opportunities because things aren't able to move as fast as we need to.
And that's absolutely fair. And it's not that we wanted to push it off. It's there are things that come at us at the speed of what they come at us at, and so apologies for not getting that on the calendar. If we send you a couple of dates that that we can sync up, because I don't remember that I'm needed on. I mean,
It wasn't you. Yeah, it was Christine was the
well,
one who was identified for that call. But I mean, I'm happy to make the doodle poll and send it out and see what dates are there. Like, yeah, happy to do that as the next step.
So if you would do that, I'm and a list of the people that need to be there, whoever's contact you don't have that I need to fill in, I'm very happy to do that.
That sounds great. Thank you.
So yes, and if you do it at eshipgoals@gmail, that would make sure that we both see it. So that would be great too. So anything like that, please don't hesitate to just, it's not that you're not important. Obviously, you're my priority, right? All of you are my priority. It's not that we don't want to do it. It's really, I cannot believe how fast time has gone since we met in December, since we met last July, since I've seen some of you or heard from some of you, and it's not that you're not top of mind all the time. It's that there are a lot of you. So I wish it was just taking care of the people on the call.
Yeah, I think totally acknowledge and recognize just how big of a lift you're being asked to do. This is so many initiatives across so many goals with so many people, so many cats to be herded. And so, yeah, that's why I said, like, please don't take that as criticism. Like,
no.
And acknowledge the big lift you're doing.
So I want to address some of that too. I mean, in being in part of Connected Networks, I think it's really important for all of us to hopefully model some of that we just did, to say, I need you to know that I want to hear this, because I don't want it to go away and not be addressed, right? I mean, this is ecosystem building. I told somebody today, ecosystem building is a team sport, right? All of us have to show up, and some of us misstep. Some of us are on the bench for a little while and come back up, and so we want to make sure that everybody's in the game, and just because we're not talking doesn't mean that what you have to say isn't important. So part of that is living comfortably in the discomfort of hearing, hey, I needed you to do this and it didn't happen, and so I can't do my part because you're a roadblock, and it's okay to call that out. So if we don't model that, then we can't grow in our own ecosystems and in our own communities. So that's really, really important, right? So
I'd like to extend your metaphor for a second. And excellent. I'm not sure if it's a similar point or not, but so one of the things that it feels like, you know, it's a team sport. So in a way, if we're forming a league, the different teams need to be part of that. And it's one of those questions that comes up. You know, I think each of us has has a role with different organizations that are key to making this happen. But I'm wondering if it feels like, you know, from Kaufman or whoever, it feels like some other body would be the one that helps see if SCN and Techstars and conveners and all these different entities are in alignment on this. Because right now I'm like related to data, I'm reaching out to Chris Hively over at Techstars because he's doing the data thing. But I don't want to kind of get in the way of any other conversation that's happening about, you know, is the Techstars, is their effort around ecosystem building, is that stepping on somebody else's toes? I don't want to get into that. I just kind of want to get a picture of what their data is. But that's with that kind of uncomfortable feeling about, you know, should I do this? Should I not? So anyway, just expressing that discomfort and wondering about that alignment of the larger players in the ecosystem.
I think that's a critical point to figure out what that balance is, and I think we're all learning together, right? Everything's a draft, and we're all just learning. And some of it is we're going to learn by failing, and I don't know where this goes, right? I just know that we've got to head in a direction, and not all of us have the answers, but all of us have parts of the answer. So that's why it's important to have these connected networks. Best practices helps. Trying to communicate. So that goes back to that initiative that's on, not on the list that I sent to the overview, but some of the things that have come from all these conversations is we've got to have a communication channel. Is it Slack? Is it Meetup? Is it Facebook? It's not all of those, but it's parts of all of those. And we've got to figure out a better way to communicate between us. If we model, as Christine said, if we model what's needed to create what's possible, if we start figuring out how we're going to communicate ideas, communicate opportunities, reach out for partnerships. So like Eric's saying, he's working on the data side and wants to know this information. There should be a way that we do this that doesn't feel like I have to walk on eggshells to get there, right? I should be able to put it out somewhere, to put out a notice somewhere and say, hey, you know what? I could really use this. And then somebody who with a relationship may go, oh, you know what? I know them. Let me connect you, right? That's ecosystem building when it's working well. So how do we get to that point?
Cecilia, my one thought, and this is based on our local experience too, is like on one side, like I think we should all have the permission to ask the questions that Avery just asked, and be bold in permission asking, kind of like would get us to where we go like, hey, can I just do this? And get an answer where possible. Because I think sometimes we're shy on that, or we just go do it anyway. So we can error there. But when the leadership of these networks meet, or when these leadership groups meet, really what we need at our level is the lanes that we are free, if that makes sense. If they could tell us, this is where please don't play yet, and this is where you can go mess around, and we just knew those, at that point, then we can run with some stuff, I think, a little bit more freely without having to ask, because I think right now there's a good tension where we're trying to be careful to not screw things up by doing stuff that doesn't connect, right? And so it's good that we're being careful that way, and I don't know, so it's not a whole answer, but if they could say, hey, as far as this goes, ask and do whatever you want with it. Or in this one, here's the places where you can do things together. Then that releases all the doers to get on with it without making mistakes. And so that's not a full answer, and if that's not helpful, but in Chattanooga, that was great. We got shared tasks that we knew we could mess with, and then we got to make a lot of progress because we knew we weren't going to upset anybody at an upper level that's trying to figure out some very important strategic decision. We understood, but we just wanted to get some stuff done. So
I follow the Bennett method. Just get it done. just do it. And if you want to tell me to stop later or, make me beg for forgiveness, great. I'll do that. But in the meantime, I'm kidding, Cecilia. I won't.
I know. It's like, oh, Tyler. No, there are some problems that arise sometimes when people reach out and create without knowing the bigger picture. Unfortunately, it's hard to see the bigger picture when you don't know. So David and I experienced something. We were together in Chattanooga and saw that there was a meeting happening between several entities. And we're like, wow, had we known that was going on, that we could have actually contributed some questions that we actually have that we'd love to get some sync on. And if that could have happened, we would have been 5 steps ahead. But that doesn't happen. And I think some of that is calling it out to organizations that we belong to and saying, hey, I'm working on this, right? So it's some transparency, some ask, some balance of all of those things. and saying, I need to know this. So I want to work on this. I need you to know, right? And it's hard to navigate. So I don't know if we can figure out best practices. Yeah. We can do the Bennett method. That would be great. Thank you, Hassan. We've already got a title for it. Can we put together some idea of best practices of the things that we would like people to know? So I think maybe that's a start. If there's a brief of how to be connected effectively. Carol, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, I'm just thinking about the certification program that's part of Goal 7.
Well, then,
wondering are we talking about either hard or soft skills here when you are suggesting that kind of brief, or that maybe does become part of a certification skill curriculum or checklist or something like that?
I don't know. I don't think that's that from what I'm thinking, what I'm visualizing is more of a an agreement or understanding of best practices of how we stay connected, keep connected, get connected, as opposed to, is it a certification, a skill? I think it's whatever we create that talks about connectedness gets shared into what a certification may look like in the future. Does that make sense?
I'm just noodling on it. Somebody else comment. I'm just trying to sift it through.
And I don't know if it's something that we can solve for now, right? I think it's something that we all think about. If that makes sense, I think the best method to kind of ideate on that would be to put it in the Slack channel. So if I could get that put into a Slack channel and start a discussion there of what it needs to look like, that would be great. And as people are signing off, I'm going to let you all go. I don't know that we solve for anything. I think it's rich discussion. And
yeah, we solved for storytelling being goal 4.
Yes. Okay.
We solved a
I'm
big
moving
thing.
it.
Yes.
I'm moving it, damn it. Okay.
And I got the doodle created and the email sent out to the group, so we will get that call scheduled.
Metachamp.
Yeah.
Look, there you go. We solved for stuff. Have a good month. Think about. I'm hoping that by this time next month you'll all be signed up to attend the ESHIP Summit.
Yay! Thank you so much, Cecilia.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.